Okay, we're back. Now we are going to go into Learning Objective 6.2, which is going to be organizational growth strategies. Okay? So, what is a growth strategy? A growth strategy is one that expands the products offered or markets served by an organization, or expands its activities or operations either through current or new businesses. So, in a growth strategy, the typical growth objectives for businesses include, well, the first one would be increasing revenue. If you increase revenue, the second one is going to be increasing profits, meaning you want to keep your overhead low. The third one is going to be increasing other financial performance measures. Okay? So these are going to be essential. The next growth objective is to look at nonprofit organizations, which include increasing the number of clients served or patrons attracted. The next one is broadening the geographic area of coverage, and the third is increasing the number of programs offered. Now, go to Figure 6.2 in your book, and it goes into different types of growth strategies. And the first one they look at is what's called the concentration strategy. The concentration strategy is a growth strategy in which an organization concentrates on its primary line of business and looks for ways to meet its growth goals by expanding its core business. When a single business organization pursues growth, it's going to use that concentration strategy. So look at Figure 6.3 of your book. When attempting to increase sales and profits, an organization might use the following three concentration options, which are in Figure 6.3. Product of market exploitation, product development, market development option, product market diversification option, and these are the four things that you want to look at to try to increase sales and profits. Now, the advantage of the concentration strategy is that the organization becomes very good at what it does. But the main drawback of the concentration strategy is that the organization is always vulnerable to industry and other external changes. So, how can we minimize the risk? By noticing how trends are changing and adjusting the organization's direction if you need to. So you don't wait too long before you assess whether or not you're being successful at the present strategy. So when we use the concentration strategy, it isn't going to be just limited to small organizations. In fact, large organizations often start off using the concentration strategy and continue to use it to pursue more growth. The next thing I want to look at is vertical integration, forward and backward vertical integration. Well, let's talk about the vertical integration strategy. And that's where an organization grows by gaining control of its inputs. Backward, its outputs. Forward, or both. In backward vertical integration, the organization gains control of its inputs or resources by becoming its own supplier. In forward vertical integration, the organization gains control of its outputs, products or services, by becoming its own distributor. So the vertical integration strategy is considered a growth strategy because an organization's activities and operations are going to be expanded. The other thing that they noticed about vertical integration is that it shows mixed results in terms of whether the strategy helped or it actually hurt performance. Because vertical integration can also reduce organizational flexibility as it's locked into certain products and technology, and it's very myopic. It has difficulty in integrating various options and financial costs of acquiring or starting up a business. Then there's the next, horizontal integration. Now, a horizontal integration strategy is expanding the organization's operations through combining with other organizations in the same industry doing the same thing it's doing. Horizontal integration is an appropriate It's an appropriate, I'm trying to say too many things at one time, corporate growth strategy, as long as it enables the company, this is what's important, to meet its growth goals. So you can sustain it to maintain a competitive advantages as long as it satisfies legal and regulatory guidelines. Gotta have my afternoon DDs. Now the next thing is diversification strategy. It's a corporate growth strategy in which an organization grows by moving into different industries. Any move into a different industry automatically makes an organization a what? Remember what we just studied? A multiple business organization, because it's no longer operating in just one industry. So there are two major types of diversification. One is called related or concentric diversification, and that is diversifying into a different industry but one strategic synergy. And that is the idea that performance of the combined operations will be much greater than the performance of each one separately. For example, Apple has diversification into music, cell phones, movies, retail stores, and personal computers. Anheuser-Busch's tried to get into Eagle Snacks, and that wasn't successful. So we also have unrelated conglomerate diversification, and that's diversifying into a completely different industry from the organization's current operations. The growth strategy involves the organization moving into industries in which there is absolutely no strategic fit to be exploited. And that's very rarely done unless the company's going under. Because when do you use this stuff? When the organization's core business don't offer enough growth potential. When specialized resources and their capabilities and core competencies can't be easily applied to other businesses around its core business. Research has shown that, for the most part, related diversification is superior to unrelated diversification. And I also want you to look at international diversification. So, how do you implement the growth strategy? You do this through mergers and acquisitions. Look and see what a merger, an acquisition, and a hostile takeover is in your book. You could also look at internal development, and that's where the organization grows by creating and developing new business activities itself. So research has shown that the choice between internal development and mergers and acquisitions depend on barriers to the new industry, the entry of getting into new markets, the relatedness of the new business. This is all summarized in Table 6.1 of your book. The speed and development costs associated with each approach, the risk associated with each approach, and the stage of the industry's life cycle. You also have strategic partnering, joint ventures, long-term contracts. Look into all of that. Also look into strategic alliances where two or more organizations share resource capabilities or competencies to pursue some sound business venture. All right. So what are we getting out of learning outcome 6.2, the second objective? We want to define growth strategy. We want to describe the various corporate growth strategies and how the corporate growth strategies can be implemented. Know what a concentration strategy is. That's where we concentrate primarily in our present line of business and look for other ways to meet growth objectives through increasing its level of operations in this primary business. No vertical and horizontal integration, a diversification strategy, a related or concentric or unrelated and conglomerate diversification, and also look for an international strategy. Know about what a merger does, what an acquisition does. Know what internal development is, or when the organization chooses to expand its operations by starting a new business venture from the ground up. Know what strategic partnering is, a joint venture, a long-term contract, and a strategic alliance is. That's the end of learning objective 6.2.